Right, so once again, I'm going to attempt to explain or clarify why it is that you should accept the gift that God is offering to mankind on the earth today. Um, throughout the past that we have studied, we find that the Almighty sends messengers of God to the earth with His advice. Those of us who have been around here quite a while and have watched near-death experience people talk and have read the different books, the Quran, the Torah, the Bible, the New Testament, um, and have experiences in our own life, we realize, perhaps dimly, but we realize, not always dimly, we realize that God is working here and that miracles happen. God intervenes at times and makes everything all better. That God is, we have, each one of us has our experience with the Almighty, uh, and so along those lines, you might think, the thing is, every day the way God has arranged it, you wake up and you feel pretty good, and usually, not too bad, refreshed, and you go to work and da 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 and so forth and so on. Different things happen. You eat food, and in the evening, at some point, you go to sleep, and the process begins again. Um, and you might think to yourself, well, gosh, while I'm sleeping, if there's anything that needs to be done, and the Almighty is working, why can't He just fix me while I'm asleep? And or does He fix me to some degree while I'm asleep? And yet, even though He might be fixing me, I mean, it's not like some miracle cure, and then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm all enlightened and aware of everything and just feeling great and stuff like that. And those are good questions, to which I have some answers, uh, just from my own understanding, which is what it is. Um, First of all, when you're unconscious, you're sleeping, of course you can dream. Sometimes we have very edifying and enlightening dreams. And often we have dreams we can't figure out what in the world they are, if they're anything, maybe they're nothing. Um, Occasionally we have really wild experiences while we're asleep, depending on who you are. Um, but you're not conscious and you're not participating. So, what if you could participate, be awake, be aware of what was going on, and have God work at you in real time, work on you in real time? And what kind of work would God be doing? Well, outwardly, you can think of a lot of things. You can think of how, sometimes you're upset for days at a time, or you're easily get angry. You're going along just minding your own business, having a happy life. Some, you know, thing happens. This really is terrible or terrifying or unpleasant, and you're not getting along with certain people, or there's all kinds of things that one encounters in life. So that we can say, uh, in the main, that life isn't usually just a smooth sail, and people try to make it a smooth sail. They take a job that is they can do pretty easily, or they take one that's a big challenge and makes them happy. But whatever it is, and they try to regulate their behavior so that they can get along with other people, and they try to regulate their behavior so they can get along with themselves and treat themselves well, and they do all these things. They can live on basically, go to the White House with a picket fence and have a nice little car outside, go to the store, get some groceries, come home, play with the grandkids, and just have this smooth life. And the older they get, the more they tend to kind of want to have that sort of thing, in general. Well, yeah, but is a smooth life, we might say, worth living? I mean, like just having kind of a very quiet life where nothing much is going on. You get bored and stuff like that. You get bored, so you read silly novels or watch the crazy TV, and so forth and so on. Is that life? Okay, so that's one set of things. And so, what if life could be quite a bit more more full and more wide and more? What if your consciousness could be better? What if you were able to arrange things so that you felt good almost all the time? I mean, not arrange your outer things, but arrange how things operate. And people try to do that. I don't want anything bad. No, I don't want to talk about that. They have all kinds of ways they try to do this thing. And what if actually you're really kind of a mess? And in some ways, sure, you're viable. Things go along pretty well, but you recognize the fact that you're impatient, or you get angry with people you didn't want to, and say things you shouldn't have said, and mean times. Particularly if you're shocked, something strange happens. There you go. Stuff. So let's talk about the point of view that man is, or the woman, or man, woman, is a noble creature, the highest, the best thing that God created, and has many different, there's all kind of facets and things that man can do. Nothing else can do that. And man, of course, also has the capacity to suffer more than almost anything, probably. We don't know for sure, but he could suffer, we know that. So now we come to the notion of the fall of man. Somewhere along the line there, depending on which book you read and so forth and so on, but they're all kind of pretty much agree, the holy book, or the books about the holy God, that God created man, and he was giving them a pretty good time. A good time. They were living in a nice place, and they were doing things, they were walking with the Almighty. In other words, they were being guided by God. And so therefore we can assume that they weren't harming themselves or other people. They were learning things, and they were eating good food, and making love, and just having a pretty good time. But then, because the Almighty, and what we would consider to be a very daring move, allowed us to, His creation, to kind of make some choices if we wanted to. We weren't forced. He didn't force us to do that. He gave us a choice, which really sort of tests what you're made out of, and your fiber and everything else. And I only know that one of the ways that man learns, how we learn, is by making mistakes. We do something we think is pretty hot stuff, and then we make a mistake, and we find out, oh my God, it didn't work. You know, the chicken's burned, and the kid's all upset and went to his room. I thought it was going to make him happy, and my wife is furious, and so forth and so on. We learn by making mistakes, and we hopefully don't make the same mistake again. So what we made a really, our ancestors, the ones that came before us, we're all connected. They made a really big mistake. Of course, that's going to be possible, isn't it? You can make mistakes. There's a range of mistakes. You can make a really big mistake. Now what? Well, I mean, the thing with a human being is wide, so of course there are going to be things like that. Huge mistake. And can God repair it? Well, of course He can. And so, how does He repair that mistake? Well, we're at the age now which, you don't have to believe this, but you can think about it and see if it doesn't add up. It's happened before. A man gets an expansion of his mind, so all of a sudden, out of the blue, so to speak, his brain, his mental facilities just get really incredible, and he can think and figure and develop his science and everything else, and he can figure out all kinds of things, many different areas, including psychology. But I mean, he can do many, many things with his mind. Now, the last time this happened, God brought man to this stage. There's been, well, anyway, so he made a big mess, and it was so bad that the whole generation of that generation, man had to be utterly destroyed. And it's said that there's no trace of it on the earth except in the Akashic records and the records. And very few people, mostly prophets and stuff like that, have access to it. I know about it because one of those people who had access to it said something about it. I don't know it for myself particularly. I've seen things, but I don't know what I was seeing, so I can't be sure. Mostly not. I haven't really mostly seen it, I don't think. But I may have seen a little tiny bit of it, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, so what was the problem? Well, the problem was that once his mind started working, or the difficulty, or what happened was, because his mind started working so well, that he got caught up in his mind, as a man does. He becomes very much involved in what he's doing, and so he got so involved that he, his duties and responsibilities that he has to his Creator, he neglected them. So he went off and got into some pretty big mess, and ended up really harming himself. And it said what he was doing to himself was so bad that he had to be destroyed. So now we're doing this again. In the 50s of the last century, man's mind expanded. All of a sudden, we're taking a figure and calculating, and we're kind of amazing. For us, it's an amazing thing. Understanding, knowledge, and stuff like that. Now, if you wondered how he might be destroying, what he was doing to himself was so bad, we could kind of see it happening now. In 2021, you can see how by now we've developed this artificial intelligence that kind of steps in and directs all kinds of things that we do and kind of guides us this way and that way without our even realizing much what's going on. Suggests videos for us to watch, programs things so that we see what we want to see and so forth and so on. And, dictates business and business decisions and stock market and everything else. And that thing is getting pretty wild. I mean, could beat the best Go player in the world 4 out of 5 times just for nothing. I mean, a few days of playing itself. That's pretty awesome and a little bit like, troublesome, as you might say. I mean, like, what, now what, and so according to what I've heard and understood, and to some degree, and I've experienced it too. I mean, I accepted that gift, and I've been following it and doing as being moved and following it for over 50 years. So I've had some experience. I'm a seasoned individual in that regard. So then, so he neglected his responsibilities. Well, and I said, well, what responsibilities are you talking about? What is it that God requires you to do? I mean, I didn't know anything about that. Well, that's because you're just kind of covered over and you're not aware of it. But in the process of being a human being, this is my understanding. This is what I've done. There are different modes. There's a mode where you're surrendering to God, There's a mode where you're accepting. You have acceptance, you accept things. There's a mode where you're submissive to God. There's a mode where there are things where the Almighty prompts you to do something, and you need to do that. Even if it's just go to the store at a certain moment. Say something to somebody at a certain moment. So there are things. And then there are also times when the Almighty requires you to worship Him, which you can't really actually do on your own, but He makes it so that you can actually worship Him. And, it's a kind of a process of seeing an activity where you worship God, and it's nice, but it's also apparently necessary and important to do that. So all those things he neglected, all those things naturally got off into a darker place, a place of all the things of this world, and oh my God, And so, so now, the difference between this generation and the last generation of man is that that God will, you can have a direct contact with the Almighty, come right in. And because God is God and you're you, it's hard to kind of, you can't think what does that mean. You can't think, because if you do think, you'll think you won't have accurate thoughts. Oh my God, God is going to possess me, and then I'll cease to exist. I'll just die, and there won't be anything with God. How would that work, and stuff like that. You can think of a lot of things. You can think it'd be good, But anyway, he's offering this gift, and it's a terrific gift for a number of reasons. It's a real, real wonderful blessing for us to have it. Because I will go on in part 2.